Diagsoft is the world's leading developer of diagnostic software and technical support for personal computers. We provide support to hardware manufacturers, software engineers, and personal computer users like you. It is our pleasure to introduce you to Windows 95, Microsoft's incredible new operating system. It's loaded with features that will make your computer easier to use and more powerful. In this presentation, we'll show you how to install the system, and we'll teach you how to navigate the new user interface. We'll also introduce you to the benefits of plug and play. So without further delay, Diagsoft is proud to present part 1 of our program, Learning the Transition from Windows 3.1 to Windows 95. You'll be amazed at the advancements that are offered in Windows 95. Installation of Windows is now easier than ever. In a few moments, one of our technicians will take you step by step through the installation process. Windows 95 will automatically recognize and set up most hardware devices that you might have in your computer. The setup program will also help you save your old system files so your previous operating system can be restored if necessary. One of the most important benefits of Windows 95 is the new user interface. It's neat, clean, and logical. In Windows 3.1, you probably spent a lot of time working out of the Program Manager and its program group icons. In Windows 95, you'll spend most of your time using shortcuts and a simple start menu to run your programs. Windows 95 also allows you to set up your desktop however you like it. We'll show you how to take advantage of many exciting new features, and we'll show you how to find the old tools you are familiar with. Windows 95 is backwardly compatible, which means you can still run all your old Windows and MS-DOS programs. We'll show you how. Then we'll introduce you to preemptive multitasking, a powerful way to run multiple programs at the same time. Your files are also now much more accessible. We'll show you several ways to find, access, and edit files with the click of a button. Plug and play is a standard that almost all new hardware devices conform to. Toward the end of this program, we'll talk about hardware conflicts and the plug and play solution. That's the first part of our program at a glance. Now let's get on with Windows 95 installation. What do you need to know about installing Windows 95? It will take about an hour to install the new operating system, but it's a very straightforward process. Windows 95 provides you with 4 basic setup options to help you configure your system. In addition, Windows 95 includes advanced 32-bit drivers for most hardware devices on the market. The setup software will identify your hardware and install the correct drivers for you. Windows 95 has very reasonable system requirements. Windows 95 requires a 386SX or better computer with at least 4 megabytes of memory and at least 30 megabytes of hard drive space. It also requires at least a VGA monitor and a video card. Microsoft states that the performance of Windows 95 will be as good as that of Windows 3.1 when using 4 megs of RAM. However, Windows 95 also gives you the added benefit of vastly increased functionality. As you increase the amount of memory in your computer, Windows 95 performs better than Windows 3.1. You get large performance gains as you upgrade from 4 megs to 8 megs of memory. Here's John Krim, our software engineer, to take you step by step through the installation process.
For the most part, setup is automatic. However, I'm going to recommend a couple steps to take before installation. Then, I'll help explain a few of the terms you'll see during installation, and I'll give you a bit of advice just in case you have problems after installation. Here are my pre-installation tips. If you're using a shell utility such as Norton Desktop, uninstall it before installing Windows 95. Your old shell utilities won't run in Windows 95, so you might as well free up the disk space. However, other utilities that came with it, such as Norton Antivirus or Norton Backup, still run, so you may want to keep them. Windows 95 installation won't work properly if your existing system is misconfigured or if a piece of your hardware has gone bad. I recommend checking out your system with diagnostic software such as QA Plus for Windows. DiagSoft's QA Plus product has a quick test feature that will analyze your system and alert you to potential problems. For more information about QA Plus, call 1-800-DIAG-SOFT or look for us on the internet. When installing Windows 95 over DOS or Windows 3.1, you'll get the option of saving your existing setup so that you can later uninstall Windows 95 if you have problems. If you take that option, there will be an uninstall utility, which will reside both in your Windows directory and on the Win95 recovery disk. Running this program uninstalls Windows 95 and reverts you to your previous system setup. The uninstall information takes up about 9 megs on your hard drive, so once everything is stable in Windows 95, you'll probably want to remove it by using the install/uninstall part of your control panel. Further directions can be found in the Windows 95 literature. Partway through installation, Setup will prompt you to choose the type of installation you want. Here are your 4 options. Typical sets up the most commonly used Windows components. Portable sets up features that are used by laptops while conserving hard drive space. This setup includes power management features and Briefcase, which is a program that helps you synchronize files between laptop and desktop computers. Compact sets up only the basic files you need to run Windows 95. This is useful if you have very limited hard drive space. Custom enables you to choose exactly which components to install. Choose this option if you're an advanced user and you want to customize your Windows installation. If you're a novice user, your best bet is to use the typical setup option and let Windows 95 configure your hardware for you. You can modify your Windows 95 setup at any time after installation. We'll show you how to do this in the second half of this program. After choosing what type of setup you want, Windows 95 will ask you for your name and the name for your computer. The computer name is for use on a network, so you can identify which computer you're attaching to. Windows 95 will also ask you if you wish to create a startup disk for emergency recovery, which I recommend. You'll need a single blank diskette to make the recovery disk. When installation is complete, Windows 95 will reboot. This first reboot will take a little longer than normal because Windows 95 has to configure your hardware. That's all it takes to install Windows 95. Here are 2 pieces of advice in case you encounter problems after installation. If Windows 95 locks up on booting, press Ctrl-Alt-Delete, and it will ask you if you want to start in safe mode. Safe mode is a special operating mode with no hardware drivers, meaning your sound card and CD-ROM drives won't work. When in safe mode, you can go into the control panel and change your system settings. We'll show you how the control panel works later in the program. Usually, you'll want to uninstall software or change hardware settings to solve the problem. If you can't figure out how to solve the problem, contact your dealer. If you're an advanced user and the control panel tweaking fails, you can also try remarking out all the lines of your config sys and autoexec bat files. If this solves your problem, then you know that the problem was caused by one of your DOS drivers or settings. If you don't know how to do this, you can also call your computer dealer for assistance.
What do you need to know to start using the new interface? The main goal in designing the new interface in Windows 95 was to make personal computers easier to use and more powerful for all users. Another goal was to make the transition from Windows 3.1 as simple as possible by carrying over many of the old features you're familiar with. Let's look at the old Windows 3.1 interface. When you open Windows 3.1, you see the Program Manager and any number of program group icons. In Windows 3.1, the tools you need to manage files, run programs, and change system settings are spread out among various program groups. Now, let's take a look at the new Windows 95 interface. The first thing we notice is how neat and clean it is. And as we familiarize ourselves with the new system, we find that it's also more logical and easier to navigate. Depending on how your computer is set up, various items will appear on your desktop. Let's look at a few very important ones. You'll find a taskbar and a Start button at the bottom of your screen. When you click on the Start button, you'll find the tools you need to start programs, open documents, change system settings, get online help, and much more. The Start button gives you access to all your old programs. Everything is now organized in one simple menu. You can find your old Windows program groups by clicking on Programs. Your groups now appear as folders in the Programs menu. The Programs menu also contains Windows Explorer, a new file manager. We'll come back to the Start button throughout this program. The taskbar is much easier to use than the old task list in Windows 3.1. With the taskbar, you can tell at a glance what programs are running, and you can switch between programs with a single click. Let's look at 3 new icons that appear on your desktop. You can double-click on the icon My Computer to see your computer's contents and manage your files. My Computer displays the contents of all your drives. Later, we'll compare this tool with Windows Explorer. If your computer is on a network, you can double-click on the Network Neighborhood icon to see available resources. This icon makes connecting to and viewing network resources point-and-click simple. The Recycle Bin icon is a temporary storage place for deleted files. You can also use it to retrieve or undelete files that you've discarded. If you're certain that a file is no longer needed, you can right-click on the Recycle Bin icon and choose Empty Recycle Bin. This permanently deletes the file and frees up the disk space that the file occupied. At this point, I'll let John tell you about a few more new and improved tools.
When you click on the Start button, you'll have access to 3 familiar Windows tools that have been significantly improved: the Online Help System, the Control Panel, and a new file manager called the Windows Explorer. Windows Help is one of the most important features for you to become familiar with. Once you understand the Windows 95 basics and how to use Windows Help, you can easily teach yourself about any of the more advanced features of Windows 95. The new help system includes topical help, context-sensitive help, and training cards. To access topical help about Windows 95, click the Start button and then click Help. To access topical help about an application, such as your word processor, you can press F1 while running the application, or use the Help menu in the application. The Windows 95 Help menu has 3 tabbed pages. The first tab, Contents, is like a book outline. You can view the contents of an item by double-clicking on it. The second tab, Index, allows you to search an alphabetical list of topics similar to an index in the back of a book. Each topic may be linked to several help pages. The third tab, Find, allows you to search for the occurrence of a word on any page of the help files. The new help system also has context-sensitive help for dialog boxes, which means you can point to a specific feature with your mouse and get a detailed description or instructions. Here are several ways to use context-sensitive help. The first way is to click the question mark icon on the title bar of the dialog box and then click on the feature you need help with. You can also press the F1 key while pointing at the feature in question, or you can right-click on a feature and choose What's This from the pop-up menu. I should mention that Windows 95 adds right-click ability to almost everything. Right-clicking is clicking with your right mouse button instead of the left mouse button as you usually do. In nearly all cases, right-clicking on an object brings up a context-sensitive pop-up menu. Context-sensitive means that the menu contents change depending on what you're clicking on. Pop-up menu means that the menu isn't attached to a menu bar. Get used to right-clicking on everything in Windows 95 because it can give you new options and save you time. Training cards are another new feature of the help system designed to teach you new skills. They walk you through example problems and they can help you complete a task you're unfamiliar with. Training cards usually have buttons you can press to run programs or complete tasks. They also stay in the foreground so that you can read them as you work in the background. Let's look at the Windows 95 control panel. You can use it to change the way Windows looks and works. To get to the control panel, click on the Start button, look under Settings, and click on Control Panel. The control panel gives you easy access to all your hardware and software settings. It's similar to the Windows 3.1 control panel, but easier to use. Whenever you run the Add New Hardware control panel item, you'll see the Hardware Setup Wizard, which leads you by the hand through new hardware installation. To view the entire hardware setup of your computer, open the System item and click on the Device Manager page. From here, making changes is a simple point-and-click operation. We'll explore this in more detail in Program 2. Windows 3.1 wasn't very intuitive when it came to file management and system information. This is partially because the information was divided between the Program Manager, the File Manager, and the Control Panel. The Windows Explorer is a much more intuitive way of managing your system. To run the Explorer, right-click the Start button and click Explore from the pop-up menu. Another way is to click on the Start button, look under Programs, and click on the Windows Explorer. The Explorer lets you view your computer's contents as a hierarchy or tree. You'll find all your available drives and folders in the left pane. On the right, you'll see the contents of the folder that is selected on the left. You can use cut, copy, and paste commands to move or copy files between directories and disk drives. Both My Computer and the Explorer let you view the contents of your computer, including the control panel, printers, and disk drives. The only difference between them is that the Explorer has a tree pane on the left, which makes it easier to view your system as a whole. Other than this tree pane, My Computer and the Explorer are identical.
Can you still run all your old DOS and Windows programs? You certainly can. Windows 95 is backwardly compatible with full support for all your old DOS and 16-bit Windows applications. But when running these older programs, you're not going to see all the advantages of the new 32-bit architecture. The new operating system fully supports 32-bit applications, which we'll discuss in the second part of this program, Mastering the Transition to Windows 95. For now, John will show you how to access all your old programs, take advantage of the new multitasking features, and create shortcuts to the programs and documents you'll use often.
The Start button gives you access to all your programs. To get to your old Program Manager groups, click on the Start button and look under Programs. Your groups appear as folders in the Programs menu. The program items are inside the appropriate program group folders. To run a DOS program, find it in either My Computer or the Explorer and double-click it. You can run an MS-DOS prompt by clicking the Start button, looking under Programs, and clicking on MS-DOS prompt. This will bring up a black DOS window. The new DOS shell in Windows 95 is improved in several ways. There's a new toolbar, and you can cut and paste text between DOS and Windows. And you can close the window by clicking on the Close button. You can switch between window mode and full screen mode by pressing Alt-Enter. It's interesting to note that DOS programs were written before multitasking, so DOS programs assume that they have control of the entire computer and that no other tasks are running. However, in Windows 95, you can run several DOS and Windows programs at the same time. That's because Windows 95 creates a virtual DOS machine for each DOS session. This virtual DOS machine simulates an entire computer running under DOS, allowing the DOS program to operate correctly. As you may know, the autoexec.bat and config.sys files describe your system's DOS configuration. These two files were very important for MS-DOS and Windows 3.1, but they become less important for Windows 95. Windows 95 uses its own 32-bit drivers whenever possible, instead of using the DOS 16-bit drivers. However, all DOS programs that you run from Windows 95 use the DOS drivers and configuration described in those DOS system files. Windows 95 also gives the DOS shells access to CD-ROMs and network drives, so that those resources don't need to be part of your DOS configuration. If you're using only 32-bit Windows 95 certified programs, and if you don't have any unusual hardware devices, then the autoexec.bat and config.sys files are unnecessary. Let's talk briefly about multitasking. A task is a running program, so multitasking means running several programs at the same time. In Windows 3.1, you had to use the task list or type Alt-Tab to switch between programs or to see what other programs you had running. In Windows 95, you can just look at your taskbar to see what programs you have running, and you can easily switch to a task by just clicking on it. We'll talk more about advanced multitasking in Program 2. Shortcuts are an important part of customizing your desktop. They give you instant access to files you use often. A Windows 95 shortcut is a special icon similar to a program item icon in Windows 3.1. Most actions you perform on a shortcut, such as clicking or dragging, have the same effect as performing that action on the file itself. You can create as many shortcuts to a file as you want, and they take very little disk space. You'll normally put shortcuts on your desktop for the programs and documents that you frequently use. Shortcuts can be distinguished from other objects by the little arrow in a box picture in the lower left corner of the icon. There are several ways to create shortcuts in Windows 95. The easiest way to create a program shortcut is to find a program file in the Explorer and drag it onto your desktop. A shortcut to that file is automatically created. This method only works for program shortcuts and not for document shortcuts. If you attempt to create a document shortcut in this manner, you'll end up dragging the document itself and not a shortcut onto the desktop. This is okay if you mean to have the document on your desktop, but when it's on the desktop, it's no longer in the directory that you dragged it from. The easiest way to create a document shortcut is to point to a file in the Explorer and right-click on it. One of the pop-up menu options is Create Shortcut. Click on that option and a shortcut will be created in the same directory. You can then drag this shortcut onto the desktop. Renaming any file, including a shortcut, is easy. First, click on the icon you want to rename. Then, click on the text portion of the icon and wait a moment. The text will become highlighted and will display a blinking cursor. You can then type the new name for your file. That's it. Windows 95 has finally done away with the old DOS file naming conventions. You can use up to 255 characters to name your documents, and you can use spaces. In addition, you don't have to worry about file name extensions. Windows 95 maintains them for you and conveniently hides them from your view.
What is plug and play? Do you need it? The biggest complaint about DOS and Windows has always been hardware conflicts and the difficulty of properly configuring new devices. What plug and play means for you is that you no longer have to set jumpers or dip switches, and you don't have to hand modify your configuration files. Here's John.
Plug and play allows you to plug a device into the back of your computer and use it immediately. If it's an internal plug-and-play device, you'll have to turn the computer off to install it. But if it's an external device, you can begin using it as soon as you plug it in. If Windows 95 doesn't already have the driver for your new device, it will ask you to insert the driver disk that came with your new hardware. It's a simple, painless procedure. There are three components required to make plug-and-play work. First, you need a plug-and-play operating system, which Windows 95 is. Second, you need a plug-and-play compatible hardware device, like a CD-ROM drive, a disk drive, or a sound card. A complete plug-and-play system also includes a plug-and-play BIOS. The BIOS is a chip that goes on your motherboard. Even without a plug-and-play BIOS or motherboard, you'll still find plug-and-play devices easier to use and install with Windows 95. When shopping for peripherals, look for the plug-and-play logo on the packaging. Even if you're installing it on an older computer, it will still be easier to install and use than a non-plug-and-play device. And if you ever upgrade to a computer with a plug-and-play BIOS, you'll get the full plug-and-play advantage.
Well, we've covered a lot of territory in this program. We've given you the tools you need to install Windows 95, navigate the new interface, and run all your existing programs. We suggest you review the material in this program until you're comfortable with everything we've covered. Then you'll be ready for the second part of our program, Mastering the Transition from Windows 3.1 to Windows 95. We'll show you more new features and look at the new 32-bit operating system. Then we'll show you how Windows 95 makes multimedia easier and more engaging, and most of all, more fun. And last, we'll introduce you to several powerful new tools for networking and personal communications. We hope you've enjoyed the first part of our program. Thank you for watching.